I'm Dave Lefebre. I just finished up the 2013 tournament season with a Bass Open on Sandusky, Ohio, out there on Lake Erie, and had a shot to make the Classic. I ended up finishing 4th. You had to win that one to go to the big show there next year on Gunnersville. But Mike Iaconelli won it, my Rapala teammate, so congratulations to him. He had a really good tournament. But here, I want to show you what I was doing in that event to catch all the fish that I caught. I had 22 pounds a day, and day 2 was canceled, unfortunately. If we could, the more days I could have fished, I could have caught 22 pounds for a week out there. It was just an incredible spot that I found. Fishing boulders out in about 17, 18 feet, as well as a couple of boulders I found up shallow in like 4 to 6 feet. But here's what I caught most of my fish on. This is a Dobbins rod, just in case you're wondering. This is what I use for drop shot, and it's a 702. I use, right here, if you can see, it's a braided line, 832 Suffix, won Best of Show at ICAST a couple years ago, and by far the best premium braid on the market. But that's what I use on my main line. It's a 10-pound test, which is normal for me. That's what I like. They make it in 6 all the way to 65. This is 65. Use it for frogging and flipping and stuff like that. But you'll love this line the way it comes through the guides and holds its color and its knot strength and abrasion resistance. I mean, everything. The list goes on. But again, 10-pound test, tying an Albright knot to a 10-pound leader, fluorocarbon 6-pound test. This is Suffix Invisalign fluorocarbon. And I was throwing the future of drop shotting. This makes your world a whole lot easier. I've been experimenting with it and love it all year long. I really believe it's the future of drop shotting. And it just eliminates line twist. A lot of guys have been throwing swivels and actually reeling a small swivel right through your guides, which is nuts as far as I'm concerned. But this minimizes your hardware, which I think is important. A lot of times those smallmouth are pretty smart. They can see what's going on, and the more stuff you have, the less likely they are to those tougher ones to get them to bite. So this is a spin shot hook, a number 4. That's what I was using. This is the first one out on the market with a swivel type of deal. Other people have copied it, and you'll see some other ones, but they're just a little bit too bulky. I like this one. It's a super thin wire, and it's not actually a swivel when you see it up close. It's just a thin piece of wire, like I said, and this hook is actually free to spin around like that. Eliminates line twist, and in current it just does some incredible things. Your bait's able to move freely, and I can't say enough about that hook. I'm real excited about it. So I'm tying a leader, tying my main line to the top of that, and then to the bottom is my leader, again the 6-pound test, and then I'm using a VMC cylinder weight, and I'm taking a pair of pliers, if you can see, actually a little screwdriver, and separating that line tie so I don't have to pinch it in there. I'm actually tying it on, so those fish, when I get stuck, I can actually put more pressure on it and save more sinkers and get more bites. I mean, it's the way to go. I've been doing that for a long time. This is a VMC cylinder weight. It's a 3/8 ounce. That's what I used for the entire tournament. And the cylinder just keeps you from getting snagged. It's way better. You sacrifice some feel typically with a cylinder because there's less contact, on the rocks, as opposed to a ball. You'd have more weight touching the bottom. But I'm using tungsten, and that makes up for the difference. So very important to keep you from getting hung. Those fish were on the top of the structure in this particular tournament. That happens a lot of times in the fall when it's cooling down. The bigger fish were on top of that stuff. You'd mark fish on the sides. A lot of times those were sheephead. There were bass down there, but on the top of the structure was where I was getting bit, and it seemed like it was important to drop my bait down on the side of it and pull it up. You could feel it scraping up on there, which is why the abrasion resistance is so important and why the weight is so important to keep from getting snagged. But once you got it on top, that's where those big fish were this week on Erie. So that was my drop shot rig. And how I got the event started right off the bat in the morning on day 1, which is something I didn't expect. I knew I was gonna start doing it, but I didn't know how effective it was gonna be. I had caught some fish making a longer run in Canada in practice on that Arashi 3. It's a storm crankbait, same one I finished second on a couple weeks ago at Champlain. Those were all largemouth at Champlain, but I found out the smallmouth love it too. I think Brandon Polinick actually caught smallmouth in an event on that exact one that I was throwing. So smallmouth love it. In the tournament, I tied on this spinnerbait. It's a 1/2 ounce Terminator. This is the exact one I caught him on. And I also had a 1 ounce on. Smallmouth love the 1 ounce spinnerbait. And, you know, you throw that thing real far and crank it 100 miles an hour and they react to that speed. But I really like to catch them on a lighter one if I can. You know, just the hookup ratio is that much better. You see them get behind it and they just suck it in. And with that trailer hook, it really just keeps them locked on there. So I pulled up to these rocks first morning. They're in 4 feet of water. I could visually see the 2 rocks. And I threw this spinnerbait right between them. Was able to reel it slow through there, but maintain visual contact with the spinnerbait. And I seen those big black ones come up and just inhale it. And like I said, man, they are crazy when you hook one that shallow. They're out of the water more than they're in the water. But this spinnerbait, I had 20 pounds and 7 casts in the morning and got my tournament rolling, you know, off to a very, very good start before I moved out to drop shot the rest of the day. This is a Dobbins 784 mic long jig rod. Best rod for spinnerbaits, big spinnerbaits, especially on Lake Erie or deep structure. You know, you can throw those big heavy ones a mile with it. It's got a lot of tip, but it's got that backbone. You need to hook those fish either down deep or way, way out there on the end of a cast. A lot of backbone. So that's my spinnerbait rod. 17-pound test cast up, the castable Invisalign Suffix is what I was throwing on that. And that's pretty much what I was doing on Lake Erie. Had a great tournament, and I'm looking forward to next year. You know, all the schedules are out, getting ready for 2014. FLW schedule looks great. Everstarts look really good for next year. Brought the championship back, so I'm real excited about next year. Going to have a lot of fun, I hope. So it's the off season, time to get out the Markhams and the auger and go out on the hard water and stock up the freezer.